yes, sir. Welcome to Under the Hood Sports. I'm your host with the most, Johnny Hill. And if you don't know me, you really should know me. Hey, I got a legend in the building, man. This man is a legend from his time and working in Detroit to ESPN. With Fox Sports, he got his own baseball website, MLBros, where he covered African American athletes and he tell their stories to the T, man. This man is a 2023 MLB NABJ Hall of Famer, Mr. Rob Parker. How you doing, man?
Hey, Johnny, what's up, man? I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on the show. Thank you, buddy.
Hey, man, I should have added a mentor to many. That's what I should have added, man. I should have added that. But let's dive deep into this, Mr. Parker. How does it feel, man? Because we talked a little bit before we got on. In 3 weeks, you're being inducted to the NABJ Hall of Fame. For the people who don't know, that's the National Association of Black Journalists. How does that feel, man, to be a Hall of Famer, man, this year?
It's pretty amazing, Johnny. I mean, if you would have told me 37 years ago when I started my career in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, that I would be honored by my peers and go into the Hall of Fame and be alive to see it, I would have told you no way, no how was that happening. And yeah, in 3 weeks in Birmingham, Alabama, a place I've never been, so that's going to be interesting for me. But it's a big honor. It really is. I don't take it lightly. Everybody can't make the Hall of Fame. It says a lot about the things I've been able to accomplish and do. As you know, for me, my career is one thing, but my real work is educating as a professor at USC, is being a mentor to young journalists like you. You guys are the ones who really energize me and push me to be the best in this business and to give back. So I'm thrilled that I'm being recognized. But if you were to ask me what's the best thing that I've done, it's about helping other people in this career and giving them some guidance and some help along the way. Because when I started out and I was young and 21, 22 years old, there were people who helped me. That's how I was able to make it to where I'm at. So I always felt to myself that I would do the same thing when the time came and I was established and I could help others. So I'm really thrilled about this.
Yes, sir. Let's dive deep into this mentorship because it means a lot to me, especially because I'm coming from Mississippi, and I ain't gonna lie, I grew up watching you, of course, Stephen A. and all them greats. And I remember one day in the summer, I just reached out to you and you replied back. And from that standpoint, you really don't understand like the mentorship and guidance, how much that means to me as a young journalist trying to come up, because you really have changed my life. And I really want to say thank you for that, man. All the support you have done, I really appreciate that. But a lot of people don't give back, man. But what made you want to be like, you know what? Even though I'm established, I'm at the highest level, I want to give back. What made you want to do that, man?
It's because I was in the same shoes, and the difference is, you know, when I was hired at the New York Daily News in 1986. I was 5 months out of college, and the Daily News at that time was the biggest paper in the country. So you can imagine a lot of people didn't think I deserved to be there or have that job. And I wasn't an intern, I wasn't an apprentice. I was a full-time staff writer at 22. But I'm not kidding myself. I would have never made it through without the guidance and help of so many people along the way. And I just feel like people can reach their potential. The one thing about my career that I feel good about is that I felt like I did reach my potential. Yeah. I was given a great opportunity early on. I didn't fumble it. I didn't waste it. I didn't take it for granted. I've worked as hard as I did back in 1986 as I do today. I still do so many things. And the MLB Bro was a perfect testament to that. You know, I just put in a lot of work, and work does pay off. Anybody who tells you it doesn't, and you only got to know people and all that kind of stuff. When they hired me at the Daily News in New York, nobody knew me.
Yeah,
I didn't know anybody who worked there, and nobody knew who I was.
man, that's amazing. I got a question, man. For the journalists or who's trying to break into the business, who isn't who isn't on that level yet, who is struggling trying to break it into the business, what advice do you got for them, man?
Well, the biggest advice is first, don't think things are going to happen overnight and you're going to be, on
Mm-hmm,
ESPN next week. I mean, let's pump the brakes,
mm-hmm,
take it realistically, realize you got to pay some dues in some smaller places. And then when you go to those places, work as hard as you can. And that's really what you want. You just want your first opportunity. The business weeds out a lot of people because people graduate and they don't get a job in the first 30 days. So then they go take some other job. Those are the people who get weeded out. So don't be that guy or that girl. Like put up, you could work other jobs. I used to sell shoes. You could
mm-hmm.
you could do other jobs until you get a job in journalism and you're able to establish yourself. So don't feel like that's beneath you. Oh, I couldn't get a job in journalism. I'm just going to take a job at the hospital, or I'm going to take a job at UPS, or whatever it is with a college degree. Man, follow your dreams. Be willing to anything that is this tough to get is worth fighting for.
Yeah,
So the people who fight for it stick around, and the people who you know aren't willing to put a fight in, those people are the ones who fall by the waysides early on.
yeah, you are correct because, like you said, things don't happen overnight, and a lot of people, I can just speak for my generation because it's like a microwave. Like it's a microwave generation. We all think, oh, we're gonna do this or do that. But like you said, you do have to pay your dues. And there's nothing wrong with paying your dues. It's okay. It's okay to wait a couple years
Let,
until you get where you need to be.
I'm going to tell you, I was going to go to my first job offer I was in Iowa at the Iowa City Press Citizen.
Mhm.
I'd never been to Iowa, didn't know anybody in Iowa. They offered me a high school sports job, sports writer job, and I was going to take that job. I was prepared to go to Iowa and get a job in the newspaper and do what I have to do. And then I got offered the job in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, which was only 2.5 hours away from New York, a lot closer, and it was a bigger paper. So I decided to take that job.
Yeah.
But don't I was ready to go to Iowa City. And I've still to this day, I've never been there. That was almost 40 years ago. I was ready to go to Iowa City to work. And you got to have that kind of determination in order to make it in this business. Everybody started out small.
Mhm.
Stephen A. started in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I could just go on and on and on
Yeah,
about the people who started in small places.
man, yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that, man. Especially like you said, if this is something worth that you love and you think is worth fighting for, why not keep going? Let's dive deep into this, man, to your career, man. What would you like to say the highest moment of your overall journalism career?
You know what? I think about that, and there's obviously, a lot of good things that happened to me. Um, being the first Black sports columnist at Newsday in New York, which is my hometown. I was covering, I was the first Black baseball writer to cover the Cincinnati Reds on a daily basis in 1991. Um, I worked at ESPN on First Take, and I was on Cold Pizza and Fox with Undisputed. And, Chris Broussard and I have a national radio show on 400 stations called The Odd Couple. There's
Mhm.
never been two Black uh, guys who have a national radio show before. We're the first ones. So there's a lot of those things. But I still have to go back to 1993 when I showed up in Detroit and became the first Black sports columnist of the Detroit Free Press. You
Yeah,
got to understand that Detroit is a city that's 85% Black, and that there had never been a Black man with a sports column at the Detroit Free Press. And when the paper hired me, the paper was 161 years old. And no one had ever Black who looked like me had that job. So to this day, that's still my proudest moment to be a columnist. At that time, there were 1,600 daily newspapers in the United States, and there were only 10 black sports columnists. I was the 10th when they hired me. So that's the moment I hold dearest to, and I still have fond memories of it. I
Mm-hmm.
wound up making a life in Detroit. I own a barbershop in Detroit. I bought a house in suburban Detroit. I got married in Detroit. I got divorced in Detroit. That was, so, my whole life, I grew up there. I spent 20 great years in Detroit.
Yeah, man, that's amazing. That's amazing. Mr. Parker, we did talk about the highs, but there also have been some lows in your career. What do you think the lowest moment in your career was, man?
I mean, I have to say, probably just the way the whole situation happened at ESPN with the RG3 comments, because they just weren't meant to be that. I never really thought that it was going to turn out that way when I went out on that set and when we had talked about it. And then it was unfortunate. My contract was coming up in 2 or 3 weeks when that whole thing went down, and they decided not to resign my contract. So I worked 8 years at ESPN, and they were all good. 8 years and one bad day, and it wound up not being renewed. But I didn't let it stop me. I went back to Detroit. I kept working and wound up getting the Fox and doing my thing. So it was bad at that moment, but not bad overall. It's a part of my story, but it's not my story.
Yes, sir. Also, Mr. Parker, you talk we earlier you talked about MLB Bros. What made you want to come up with that, man? What made you want to?
Well, I mean, as you know, I'm a big baseball
Yeah.
guy. I cover Major League Baseball. I vote for the Baseball Hall of Fame. We have a baseball writers card, the BBWAA.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
number 70 on the baseball writers. That means there are only 69 other writers, baseball writers in the country who have covered baseball longer than me. Only 69. That's
Mm-hmm.
how long I've been around. And I just felt like we weren't hearing enough about the black players. There aren't a lot. There's about 90 black players in the major leagues right now. But I think it would be great, I thought, to expand and tell their stories. It's just the same way that Soul Train was a part of Americana, where black music and those entertainers and people we didn't see, and maybe some of the mainstream stuff we got to see on Soul Train. So it was kind of off of that, and I thought that this would be also a great breeding ground to give opportunities to young writers and broadcasters and content creators and editors who could learn from us and learn how to cover baseball and grow. And that's probably the greatest thing about MLB Pro, as well as the coverage. But
Yeah.
we started with 14 people when we started the site 3 years ago, and now we're up to 62 and
Mm-hmm.
a lot. If you go look on our staff page on the website, it is unbelievable how many young black guys and girls are covering baseball for us and doing videos, and that's awesome. And I have some, college kids. I get 2 or 3 emails a week. Kids in college who want to work for MLB Bro and learn from us. So that's probably going to wind up, I believe, to be my greatest gift of all to journalism is training these young people how to cover Major League Baseball.
Man, that's amazing. And you have taught me a lot about baseball too. Just because when I first met you, I was like, man, I really don't know a lot of baseball. But the thing I do admire about you, you will still send me some baseball stuff, learn this or different things. And I learned a lot about it, the game as well. And I do like you said, I will think like that's probably is your biggest impact right now because you have really truly you're really bringing the youth into learning more about the game, and I really do salute you on that. Okay, earlier, Mr. Parker, we talked about Chris Broussard. Let's talk about that chemistry, man, because y'all got a special chemistry on the air, man. Where did that chemistry come from? Does it come from y'all just working a long time with each other, y'all being friends? Where did that come from, man?
Yeah, I mean, chemistry is hard to get and it doesn't happen all. You could put a lot of people together, especially on a radio show, and it just doesn't click. But Chris and I have known each other since 1992. I
Yeah.
met Chris and Stephen A. both at the NABJ convention in 1992 in Detroit. That's when I met both of them separately, but I met them both there. And Chris and I have worked for a long time. Chris and I are me, Chris, and Skip Bayless are the only three who have worked on all the debate shows. We worked on Cold Pizza together, we worked on First Take together, and we worked on Undisputed together.
Mhm.
So we go back. We used to be on the set together. We debate stuff, and it's just something. We're definitely the Odd Couple is a real name. We are two different people, and I think that's what makes the show is that it's not two guys just saying the same thing and just co-signing every time we say something. But if we have real disagreements, we're real about it and we express it and we bump heads. But ultimately, it's not a hate relationship or some people think sports too seriously. I could disagree with Chris, but we have a friendship that will survive our radio show no matter how much we agree or disagree on topics. So that's the part that I think is is great. And the part I think that a lot of people don't respect their partners. Chris
Mhm.
and I have a lot of respect for each other. We both have done a lot of things in our careers. We've both come from a newspaper background. We worked in New York together. He worked at the New York Times. I worked at the Daily News and Newsday. So we know what it takes to work at big time newspapers and the responsibility that we have to educate people and not just throw stuff out because we want people to click on our stories or our videos.
Yeah. Final question, Mr. Parker. It's not even like, yeah, it is a question. What are Under the Hood Sports? We do this thing. We always talk about goals because I feel like that is very important. Because if you don't have a goal, it's like where are you going, man? So
I totally agree. I totally agree with that. You
yeah,
got yeah, like when people tell you could go to college and you don't have to major in anything. No, you do. You do. You have
yeah,
to come up with what are you trying to accomplish? There's got to be like a goal, an end. It doesn't mean you can't switch it or change up, but you
yes,
got to
sir.
go in with some idea of what you want to do. Goals are every year, January 1st, I
Mm-hmm.
write a list of 12 goals that I want to reach. Some are really big and some are really small. They could be like clean out the hall closet, could be on that list of 12 things I want to accomplish that year. And then the other one could be start a website covering black and brown baseball players. That's how big the gap is. But I
Yeah,
look at that list and I try to accomplish as many goals in that calendar year. So I always give myself 12 goals every year to do.
for sure, man. And that is very important. Like I said, like especially what you just said. But man, out of them 12 goals you got, only three. What are your most important goals you're trying to accomplish for and achieve this year?
Um, so a couple things. And all of these are um, what one is for me to get back into the shape that I was a couple years ago before the pandemic, when
Yes,
I
sir.
was, working out on a regular basis. I got sidetracked. I want to get back to that. Okay, I feel great. I look pretty good, but I could look better, and I want to, get back into that shape that I was in. Um, I want to get MLB Bro content in every black newspaper in the United States. We just struck a deal with the Amsterdam News in New York. They're
Yeah,
going to start taking out content. So I want to get us where we can get our stories and information out to all the black newspapers across the country. And
yes,
number three, next year, MLB Bro will have a half an hour TV show, hopefully on MLB Network. So those are my goals for the upcoming year and the rest of this year.
mm,
And that's what I'm putting most of my energy and time in. Those MLB Bro and me getting in better shape. But other than that, man, I'm pretty happy, pretty energized. Still feel great about uh, the business and what it is we're trying to accomplish. I'm very optimistic. I'm not a pessimistic guy, and I think good things are coming.
it's for sure. It really is, man. Hey, Mr. Parker, do you got any more comments before we end this show?
All I would say is believe in yourself. Don't let other people distract you, deter you, tear you down, and tell you can't do it. A lot of the people who are in charge or bosses, they're not the end all be all. They make mistakes all the time with people's careers. Do not accept that from one person that you can't accomplish and do what you want to do.
Yes, sir. Well, on that note, that was Under the Hood Sports. Thank you, Rob Parker, for coming in on the show, man. Hey, man, y'all be safe out there. We're out of here.